So I mentioned we began this in the mid-90s. We've had probably close to 1,500 patients participate in our 8-week program, which is the structure of the formal teaching. So we have abbreviated our methods from what they do in Massachusetts because of our feeling that many of our patients were struggling with fatigue and treatments, and that it was perhaps too much to ask them to come for 3 hours every week. So our classes are only an hour and a half once a week. We have a full-day retreat between the 6th and 7th of the 8 weeks. The format of each class is similar in that we come together, we practice coming into the here and now briefly to begin the class and encourage people to, connect with their motivation for being there. Then there's a period where we teach some of the concepts relating to mindfulness. We then go and do some yoga and finish usually with one form of meditation or another. We provide CDs to all the participants so that they can practice at home, and that's a big and very important part of the learning that takes place. Our groups tend to have between 10 and 20 participants at any given time, and we welcome family members as well. So our formal research, and I will stop talking about the research momentarily, we've demonstrated in a weightless controlled trial that over just that 8-week period there is a significant reduction in symptoms of stress and mood disturbance as measured by some standardized instruments. Focusing on the mood disturbance, which includes things like anxiety and depression and how much energy a person feels they have, we found a 70% reduction in distress over that 8-week period, and those benefits were maintained at our 6-month follow-up. We've also observed, shifts in the body's functioning, including normalization of the pattern of cortisol secretion in the body, which is one of the master hormones that controls things like the sleep-wake cycle and so forth, that is often disrupted in cancer. And so those patterns were seen to move towards a more normal profile, a daily profile of rising and falling of cortisol. We've also seen improved sleep quality and duration. So those are just some of the things we've actually measured. I think our patients will speak to much broader and more meaningful benefits that are sometimes a little harder to put into words. For those of you unfamiliar with the idea of mindfulness or the mind, I want to just comment on this concept of the mind. In Western medical thinking, we often have a reductionistic idea that the mind is equivalent to the brain, and this is not how we think of the mind. If you have the slides there, one of the quotes we have here is from Hazrat Aniyat Khan. The mind is the surface of the heart, the depth of the mind. Mind is the surface of the heart, the depth of the mind. The mind, as we conceive of it, is a process more than a thing. It's how we use information, how we... I'm sorry, someone's knocking on my door. I'm going to ignore that. A process that regulates the flow of energy and information, and that includes emotion. We don't have minds that aren't informed by the state of our emotional life, the feelings in our body, and so we think of the mind as incorporating all of these. So briefly, in terms of a definition of mindfulness, one that is often used is that mindfulness is intentional, non-judgmental awareness of what is happening, actually happening, in each moment within us and around us. Now, if we think about it, awareness, we're always aware of something as long as we're conscious. There's some kind of awareness process happening. But added dimension of mindfulness, I think, is that we're not only aware of something, but we're aware of what we're aware of. There's a sense, an awareness of where our attention is and what's happening in that field of awareness. So it's intentional in that respect. Another quote I have in the slides, and I'm sure you can get them if they haven't been forwarded to you yet, from a traditional teacher, a Buddhist teacher, Ajahn Sumedho. He answers the question, what does it mean to be mindful? It means to be fully aware right here, concentrating on what is going on inside. Mindfulness is not necessarily concentrating on an object. Being aware of confusion is also being mindful. If we have all kinds of things coming at our senses, noises, people demanding this and that, we cannot concentrate on any one of them for very long, but we can be aware of the confusion or the excitement or the impingement. We can be aware of the reactions in our own minds. That is what we call being mindful. So that's mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation is what we would talk about when we're describing a formal practice where we are going to actually set aside a time and a place and sit down or lie down and consciously enter into this process of meditating. So we often will distinguish between, you may hear the distinction made between formal practice and informal practice, and both are very important. But mindfulness meditation, the formal practice, we train ourselves to stay focused and available in the present moment. And this allows us to recognize the constant stream of conscious and sometimes unconscious thought, feeling, and habit that we are submerged in every second of every day. We want to bring ourselves fully awake and aware, and how we might contrast this to the normal state of affairs where our minds are often engaged in all kinds of activity that we're not really consciously noting. We could be in daydreams. We could be talking inside our own head, a dialogue, and some people have referred to our minds as like monkey minds, 1,000 conversations all at once, jumping from one branch of the tree to the other, and leading us into all kinds of trouble, and often guiding our perception and reactions based upon old learning and old patterns that can be very problematic and prevent us from being able to develop some more effective ways of responding. So we want to step out of that automatic way of perceiving and reacting into a more considered way of sensing the actual experience as it's happening, and then being able to respond from a place of awareness rather than out of habit, or, from some people talk about, our defenses or our ego. We want to be able to understand how that works in our own experience so that we can not be like robots, but be fully human. So how does mindfulness help? Well, it allows us to recognize those automatic thoughts, automatic reactions, and to respond in more meaningful and effective ways. To put it succinctly, awareness offers us the possibility of making a choice, whereas if we're working on that automatic pilot out of mindlessness, we have no choice. We're just acting out old programs. And from Saki Santarelli has written a wonderful book called Heal Thyself. It's intended for healthcare workers, but I think it's helpful for anyone that's interested in mindfulness. He says mindfulness can be cultivated as a way, an inner discipline for learning to meet and enter with awareness the challenges inherent in taking care of ourselves and serving others.